Time for trades, free agency, some big moves, some not so big moves already happened. Jeff, what's the most interesting move to you?
I'll just riff up here about the Oilers real quick. I mean, I'm
All
happy
right.
with what they've done. It seems like they had a couple holes. Clefbaum just and like is out this year. They announced that. So when you have your number one D just announced the week before the draft, he's pretty much out for the season. It's tough. They got Barry to fill that role. They needed wingers and they needed more depth. They got Puljujärvi to come back after a good year overseas. So hopefully, I mean, at least he's not like 18 years old now. So anything I assume is going to be better than his last stint. Hopefully, he sounds like he's more mature. He's learned at least a little bit more English. And then you get a guy, and then you pick up Turris and Ennis. So with your other money. So then, like, that kind of left the only spot that was kind of left with no money was goalie, which caused the Smith resign. But if you can address three of your four like major things you needed going into the weekend, and they paid less than $4 million for a third line of Ennis, Turris, and Puljujärvi, then and then you have Barry on 1 year, 3.75 on the back end, power play one. I know John probably has his opinion on that, but
Yeah.
if anything, he's a good power play player. So that I don't know, I was happy with it. I mean, and then like going with Smith and Koskinen, it's like Holland's clearly putting faith in his team ahead in front of the goalies. Like it's gonna hurt, but we'll have to see. Like I don't know. I didn't know if I really wanted to like. I was excited to be in on Markstrom, but and 6 times 6 doesn't seem too
No.
bad to me. But I don't know. If we would have been spending almost 10 mil on goalies, and you never really want to do that.
No, I did not like the Markstrom
Yeah, it kind of
market. It's
frightened me.
just too long of
Yeah,
a term for a goalie that I don't want to say is unproven, but I wouldn't trust him as my star goalie for a long term that I know I'm
yeah.
stuck
Like
with.
you're not getting a guy like like if like if it was like Rask or like if you're getting like
Yeah,
a
I don't think it's the value is just not there to me with the
yeah
goalies, especially in free agency. I do want to hit on Barry just for a sec is I do like the move for Edmonton, even though John might not like it. I don't know. It's just I do think that adding more of an offensive element from the back end for the Oilers has always been something that I wanted them to do more so with their entirety of their lineup. Far too long have they just gone off and gotten like fill in like defensive defenseman
yeah
kind of guys, block
yeah.
shots, and
These
like
players don't feel
can't
like
move the
villains.
puck.
They don't feel filling. And like this free John's gonna speak to it, I'm sure, but this free agency is just so weird with the one like with so much uncertainty, the 1 year deals. Like
Yeah, that's
that,
great.
like if you would have told me the start of last year we'd get Barry on a 1 year 3.75, I'd be
Exactly.
like at that point, the Leafs fans were like, how are we gonna be able to keep him like if he has a good year? Like so much can just like it's absurd this year, but it doesn't feel like any of these players are like plug-in crappy players. Like they also like Turris, Ennis, and Barry as three players you can add to your lineup without only spending less than 10 mil or like altogether. They're like less
5
than
mil, bro. Literally
Yeah.
close to five, or yeah,
yeah.
just under
Like,
6 million. Like Ennis, and well, that whole third line we were talking about, like in around 1 to 1.5 million each, and then
yeah.
Barry was under 4. Yeah, I guess just to touch on it, like I agree with Mitch. I think Barry brings that element. I love Clefbaum, but I think Barry brings more of that offensive instincts on the power play and that kind of quarterback guy on the power play. But I will say this: the Oilers made good moves. They did. They made actually great moves in free agency. They were probably the team that you can look at and be like, they didn't take any risks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even for Mike Smith, it's only 2 million for a guy that was still like fairly mediocre, and
Yeah.
2 million like shows that. But for me, what we saw against the Hawks, they got outscored, they got pressured, and they succumbed to that pressure. They're losing Clefbaum now. Adam Larson only has 1 year left. Who's that guy that's going to be a stud defensively? You only have Barry on 1 year. Like,
Well, yeah, we gotta hope Bouchard can step up and play like meaningful minutes this year, and you hope Bear takes another step forward, and then you have like Bear, Barry,
Darnell
like
Nurse is a
Maybe
defensive liability every other
oh,
game.
I know. I'm not.
maybe a trade.
I'm by no means a Darnell Nurse
Yeah, we'll
fan.
see. I think defensively they're in trouble, and I really am not confident in the
Well,
tandem.
we
I mean,
gotta we gotta
what's changed? There's nothing's changed there. Koskinen and Smith, like, how would you have confidence in that?
No, I don't have confidence as them as a goalie tandem, but like I'm happy that at least Barry can plug into Clefbaum's role pretty seamlessly. And then we've got guys like Bouchard, who's a year older. You've got guys like Caleb Jones, who's a year older, who already looks like he could be top 4 last year. So you're just gonna like I see your point though, because it's like, what are we gonna do? Like what we did was we added a real good third line without addressing the goaltending problem and without really making any clear steps forward on the defense. You just gotta hope that the prospect like Bouchard and Caleb Jones and Bear can just take that next step forward and like fill in. But then again, that's also a very young, inconsistent defense. So it is scary, but with all the signings and we had about 10 mil to spend, I can't complain.
The one goalie I'll actually say kind of got finessed, but for the team it's great, and maybe the situation, Holtby. He had one bad year.
Oh yeah.
And now he's literally 30. Like, if anything, if you asked me a few years ago,
I love the move for the Canucks.
Oh, great move. I think it sucks.
My God.
It's so dumb. I will just say dumb that they did that and still lost Tanev. Like, I think for me, when they signed Holtby to cheaper than Markstrom, I was like, okay, that creates the space to keep Tanev. And then they lost Tanev, and Tanev follows Markstrom to Calgary. But Holtby gets finessed, because if you asked me a few years ago, okay, Braden Holtby, Markstrom, when they expire, who's the guy that's going to get the huge contract, and who's the guy that's going to get like a 1 or 2 bridge deal just to continue playing as like a decent 1B option? Because that's what Markstrom was a couple years ago. It's only been the last 2 years where Markstrom's played as an elite goaltender. And this year, a Vezina type.
Contract 2 years, John?
Yeah, Holtby's 2 years.
That's what I'm talking about.
Holtby should have. I mean, Holtby 2018 Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
like, if you look at that, it's like, okay, when his contract expires, he should be getting 6 or 7 million plus, maybe, for the long term.
You could argue at one point Holtby was the best goalie in the league.
Covered? Like, because this year. And then, so if a 2-year contract means they can expose you can expose them to the contract.
Yeah, so that's the crazy part. In terms of contract, he definitely got finessed. But in terms of fit and location, I mean, Mitch, you're the guy in Vancouver. You could probably tell me how far of a drive it is from Vancouver to Seattle, but it ain't too far.
No, it's not far.
Yeah,
so,
I'm just like, because isn't there something to be said about the GMs who are signing the 2-year deals so you can keep the player for this upcoming year, but you can also expose them in the draft, right?
Exactly.
So they were probably thinking, we can either sign Markstrom to a 6x6 this year and have Demko and Markstrom, but have Demko as like a guy who's starting for them to come up, or you could pay the guy who's already a little bit older but better, or you could let him walk.
That was the whole thing. I didn't think Markstrom was going back for that specific reason. He wanted a no movement clause. He wanted a long-term contract. They weren't letting Demko go to Seattle. It wasn't happening.
Yeah, exactly, because now they'll have the younger guy who wasn't going to cost them the money to protect during the expansion, and then they'll also have Holtby, who they can expose after getting a year out of him, I guess.
It's crazy that the Canucks now have potentially one of the best tandems in the league for only $5.5 million combined.
I know
that is what I was talking about. This is almost like, I don't know what the analytics are on this, but I can just tell you with the eyeball test and the season to season progression and regression of goalies, that analytics would probably tell you that going cheaper on goalie and having a combination and hoping one of them gets hot, especially if it's a younger guy and a veteran guy, is probably the best way to go. And letting a guy like Markstrom walk on that massive contract is probably the best thing to do, because you don't know when he's going to regress, especially at the age he's at. And now you get a Holtby who's
the same age. He's the same age.
Same age. And like 3 years ago, he was like the best.
2017, yeah, he was. And then the 2018, they win the cup.
I know.
Yeah.
But dude, and like the goalies are good quality goalies are going for like under $6 million now. Like Sergei Bobrovsky must think he's like the most like
Bobrovsky genius. They're genius. Take advantage of the Panthers' stupidity and mark it down.
Goalie who's totally got like giant contract, because now COVID's happening and you see guys like Leonard signing for $5 million. You see Grice signing for cheap, Crawford signing for cheap. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, Jeff, who would imagine? And again, I'll be calling myself out here and saying I thought Bobrovsky going to Florida was going to complete them in a sense, but as you evaluate it, and I talked about it when it happened, the one thing I was concerned about is Bobrovsky going to a weaker defensive system. And if you think about it now, he went from one of the best defensive systems in Columbus to one of the worst defensive systems in Florida. And what happened? That's why I talk
Tortorella's
about
systems make goalies better. It's
yeah,
just a fact.
100%. And that's why I talk about when it was the Vezina conversation and people are up in my face talking about Rask. Look at the Bruins defense versus the Jets defense.
Yeah.
It's not even close. The Jets had 3 AHLers playing 18 minutes a night.
And this is where, we get into Matt Murray, who got traded from the Penguins. I've always been, not the biggest Matt Murray fan, but a believer. And I don't want to ever say that he was like one of the best goalies in the league, but he was certainly consistent enough and clutch enough to win the cup a couple of times. But the thing with him is he was always laid out to dry. Penguins did not play a system that was for him to be successful as a goalie individually. A lot of the times this guy is saving 2-on-1s, breakaways, making massive saves. Like there's so much more pressure on a goalie in Pittsburgh. That's why I don't think Fleury ever got the respect he deserved, because he was way better in Vegas after they played a little bit better defense. So I think Murray going to Ottawa, which I think they're going to play maybe a different style of hockey, I think he'll actually end up being a lot better there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I like the Murray fit. I don't like the contract. I'm actually shocked the Sens did that and then end up going to get Goodbranson as well. Bro, I don't know what Dorian's doing. They went to go get Goodbranson. And Matt Murray, this is the weird part. I was looking as I'm preparing to talk about the goalie market. I'm looking at 10 goalies that the Sens could have plucked, paid, and not traded away an asset. Yeah. They traded a 2nd-round pick for Murray, which I get it. You're getting a youthful guy, 26, but then handed him over $6 million at the term for a guy that just put up a below 900 average or save percentage. I get it. Murray can be great, but I just think for the Sens, you're in a rebuilding mode. Why do you give up the asset and then pay?
When they traded for him, right?
Do you think though?
Yeah, they traded for him and then gave him the contract because he was an RFA.
Let him play a little bit first,
No, but do you think that has something to do with Ottawa having all this money and being like,
yeah, 100%. I mean, Mitch, that's why they did the Goodbranson move. I mean, Melnick is laughing because Goodbranson only has 1 year left and the cap hits higher than the money owed, and Melnick's laughing in the background going, I don't have to pay as much. And I still get a captain.
Can't skate.
But that's the great part for Melnick.
I think Jeff could skate around Goodbranson, bro.
Eugene Melnick, less money comes out of his pocket, but they still get to the cap floor, so they don't get in trouble with the NHL, and they still pay the lowest money in the league, and Melnick's laughing.
Well, we have a few minutes left. Any other big moves that kind of come to your mind and in terms of ones that are kind of fascinating?
Krug,
to St. Louis.
That dude was sick.
I think the 3 things I'll say were the developments of certain situations. The one of the Western Canada that we kind of already touched on, of the whole circle of Markstrom, Holtby, and then Barry, like Tanev, like it's crazy. Like it pops up. Oh, the Markstrom rumors, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. The Barry rumors, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. The Tanev rumors, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. Like it was crazy. Those 3 teams were in on like so many guys.
If you think about it, all 3 of their franchises are kind of in similar positions right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in different ways, but yeah, for sure. I mean, the Canucks definitely have, I would say, the youth spread out. The Oilers are the 2 guys up front, and the Flames, if anything, they're actually probably aging the most out of those 3 teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. And I was just going to touch on the other thing. The other crazy one was, as you just said, the Krug. Like everyone was talking about, okay, Krug, if he doesn't stay in Boston, he might go home to Detroit, or like he might just go on vacation to Florida and get paid. And then Pietrangelo might go back to St. Louis, but he might go to Vegas and Toronto. All of a sudden, Pietrangelo gets blindsided, and Krug, like after the free agency, this was like later in the night, and Krug just goes to St. Louis, and Pietrangelo sitting there like, what just happened? Yeah. And then Toronto commits to Brody like that. Like it was so random.
And now Pietrangelo is probably going to end up on the night.
Vegas, yeah.
Oh my goodness, bro.
They love signing big players, man, there. They love the big names.
Yeah, but he would be awesome there. He totally fits it.
And Winnipeg, it's kind of ironic because I talked to Jesse Pullock about it. Winnipeg got shafted by the Golden Knights when their 1 year, and then it was kind of weird. I get Stassi's a good fit, but Winnipeg actually helped Vegas by taking the Stassi contract full out. They would not have been able to afford anyone. You take the Stassi contract because no one's helping them. Like no one's helping that organization take the Fleury contract. No one. But Winnipeg was just like, all right, we'll take Stastny 6.5 and he'll be our second line center. And Vegas is like, yep, that's the space for Pietrangelo right there.
Yeah.
That's a good swap, if you ask me.
Yeah, not too shabby right there. And,
What's going on in the channel, Mr. John?
I'm definitely going to cool down a little bit, but I'm probably going to still do a couple streams a week. Obviously, the content through free agency. And I think I want to get these two guys, Mitch and Jeff, here maybe a little more involved. But obviously, BLV's full flight with football.
Yeah, we got some stuff going on. Practicum, big project.
Yeah, well,
between you and I.
Yeah, advertise that a little bit. Loyal to the game, you guys got to check that out. I mean, Jeff, you're doing obviously your project as well, but I'm excited. I think obviously the channel is going to be a focus, but I think it is good timing in terms of hockey playoffs being over, then free agency. I'm going to try to wrap everything up and keep getting news out, but now we can focus on something else that obviously is
Plus,
in our
we'll be
life
doing
here.